Hey, everybody. It has been a minute or two since we've all gathered together. A couple of weeks ago, we did an episode with our pal, Guru Kent Osborne. And I mentioned on that episode that Tim was away dealing with a family matter. And I was sort of purposely circumspect. Is that the word? I just didn't, at the time, thought it was my place to go into any details. And I basically told everybody to go check out Tim's Facebook page for a beautifully written, I think it was that the obituary? I think it was.
It was the obituary, yeah.
So Tim O'Connor is back, Coach Tim, and golf spiritual leader here for a different episode of Swing Thoughts. And I think a lot of people who reached out to me, reached out to Tim, and then obviously looked at the obituary on Facebook. But before we get to all that, welcome back, Coach Tim. How are you feeling?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, every day. It's been about a month since Corey passed. And yeah, it's just an ebb and flow. It's tough. It's brutal. But we're getting along. I mean, we have people like you and our family and friends. Just the amount of support has just been crazy. I mean, it's been just so wonderful. All these people reaching out. Haven't had to cook a meal for about a month, which is kind of nice.
That is an interesting tradition, and I think it's in every religion. Certainly in my limited experience with Judaism, it's like, hey, sorry that somebody passed away, but here's some food.
Yeah, exactly. But it's part of the ritual. It's part of how people come together in a communal way to share with each other, to show each other how, the love, the support, the care. And it's just, it's a beautiful thing in an otherwise brutal experience.
Well, for people who haven't quite figured it out yet, Corey, Tim's youngest, passed away. I think it's a month tomorrow, if my memory's...
Yeah, February 26th.
Yeah, so we're recording this on March 25th. And I think the next day is when you called me, and I just felt so bad for you. We had a series, you and I, of just horrible conversations. You know what I mean? Like, they were just hard.
I put it this way, I'm interjecting. Sad but beautiful, and man, you were amazing and continue to be amazing in terms of reaching out, seeing how we're doing, and just so appreciated. Really, the first long conversation I had with anybody of any depth was with you, and I had just met. I think I had visited Father Boyd at our parish, Holy Rosary in Guelph. And Father Boyd, oh my gosh, that he is an amazing fellow. But anyways, after I got in the car and we had arranged to speak, and I think I just sat in a church parking lot talking to you for about 45 minutes. It was the longest call I had with anybody, and just your level of care and support, and just life earned wisdom about what to ask and everything. So one of the things that I'll just share with everybody is one of the things that many people are afraid of is causing people, the bereaved, to suffer more by having to talk about it. But you know what? When you care and you ask questions, it provides people like us with permission to talk, and we want to talk. So just, I don't know, there's a swing tip. Number one,
It's all right.
it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to be naturally curious and draw people out. So
Well, that was the
Yeah,
second conversation.
and you did that so well.
Well, I appreciate that. The first that was the second conversation.
Yep.
The
Yep.
long conversation was the second time, but the first conversation, the day after it happened, that one was even though it wasn't as long, it was pretty long. It was like 20, 25 minutes, and I didn't say much. There wasn't a lot to say. There were a lot of tears on both of our parts because it really, I don't know, I just felt, it's like, I often will talk about what transferred embarrassment feels like. It's like when you watch somebody perform and they're stumbling and they can't remember their lines, you feel embarrassment for them. But I had
Right.
such an overwhelming sense of I just felt so bad for you. And that
Yeah.
first conversation, like it hit me because I didn't know Corey very well, but I'd met him. I met him and Sean, and I've been in a few situations where everyone was together and was joking around with the boys, and I could just hear it in your voice. And it was that first conversation was I know it was very difficult for you, and I thought a lot about it. And then I just messaged. I said to you, I said I'm just going to send you a lot of messages if that's okay. And for the first couple of weeks, I sent you a text or something every day, just because
Yep.
I wanted you to know I was still thinking about it because I think a lot of people, what you just said about they're afraid to speak about it to the person who's grieving. But I just wanted you to know that I was still out here somewhere in the world, here being Mexico, still thinking about you.
Yeah. And again, that's really appreciated. Um, yeah, the harder part is when it's just Sandy and I. But although frankly, it's amazing having Freddie, our dog here, because Freddie was a very good friend of Corey's. Um, but it's when we're alone, especially when first couple of times I was alone in the house. It's hard. Um, so when you have people reach out and people to read and things, it's nice. In fact, it's distracting,
Yes.
and um, and that's and that's a good thing. It's because it's not necessarily that we have to, oh, you have to get over it and get back in the saddle. That's old bullshit. It's just I don't know. I keep saying one of the things that's really like I have this stupid line, as I often do. Humans are weird, and that is we can just be through hell and keep going. We're
Hmm.
just so resilient. And that's what I find is that, here it's a month out now. Um, and we just keep going. And
Well, how do
that's
you?
what,
I think that was one of the things I was curious about. And again, I reached out to you mostly to say hi. Sometimes I was, I saw, I think I waited, and I think I waited for me anyway, an appropriate amount of time before I tried to make you laugh. And I'm being honest. Like I was very careful about what I said. Mostly it was, hey, I hope you're well. Give my best to Sandy. That's why I was thinking about you. And then somewhere I think in the toward the end of the second week, I sent you a note. I don't know if you remember this one, Rice, because knowing how important faith is to you, I said something like, "Hey, if you ever want to have a conversation with your other favorite Jewish guy, let me know." And, I just
yes,
hope I just hoped you thought it was funny because I thought it was funny.
it
You know, just
was. Yes, it was.
so I thought, okay, is it okay to try and make Timmer laugh now? And that's when we had the conversation in the church parking lot, I think.
I don't know. But anyways, yeah. Humor's a good thing. It's all good. It's just, I mean, that's one of the amazing things. It's just even on, the night that we knew Corey was gone, it was hard to sleep. Obviously we were just destroyed. However, I kept having a smile on my face as I thought of, good memories.
Hmm.
And so yeah, again, like we're weird. I mean, you go from like, laughing your ass off about something to absolute, paralyzed by tears. Um,
Despondent. Yeah.
Yeah, and everything in between. But it's, how do you, I think you asked a moment ago, how do you keep going? Well, you just do. You just keep, we have so many friends and family who engage with us, and then there's just a natural, I don't know, it's, I can't get too philosophical about it, but we all have this North Star, this force within us, and we just keep going. And so, I'm slowly getting back in the saddle, coaching wise. I've been reaching out to some clients. Like I put, as you would completely understand, put everything in our life on hold,
Hmm.
everything. But there's just a natural wanting to get back into things, and I've given some golf lessons since, and we've had a good time and fully present and all of that. Um, but it is absolutely true that sometimes when you're done something, it's like an oh yeah,
Yeah. When it
damn it,
hits you, you're reminded.
you're back in it, But
I wanted to ask you about that because I was in the first few days after it happened. I didn't reach out to anyone. And then it occurred to me around a week or so after, I thought, there's a lot of people in Tim's life that I'm friends with that I know you've had an impact on, some guys that I know that you've worked with. And then I thought, oh, this was before you put the obituary on Facebook. And I thought, is this okay to do? So I reached out to a few people that I know, including Carl, that I knew would want to know, that were close enough to you and a few of your students, and they hadn't heard. And they were both the two that I spoke to were both, just horrified for you. But then I thought, why wouldn't you want to hear more words of condolence and encouragement and just let you know I'm out here thinking about you, and I hope that helped because I know they were very interested in speaking to you.
yeah, well, your instincts were dead on, man. Um, yeah, it's been lovely. Um, one of the things that I have to admit, and there's maybe some of our listeners who did reach out, you can't, I, you can't respond to everybody, and even though I want to. Um, we just had just a tsunami of text messages, emails, responses to the Facebook post. I can't respond to all of them, but I think people know that it's genuinely, it's a little bit helpful, and it's nice to know people are thinking. And honestly, I'll just segue into this if you don't mind. So the funeral mass was Friday morning, and then we had a celebration of life at the parish hall, um, in the evening, and more than 200 people showed up. It was,
Wow.
yeah, it was overwhelming. It was amazing. But it was like these people from all walks of our lives and Corey's life showed up. Like his first girlfriend showed up,
Wow.
when he was 15. And, people from my golf life, from the Mankind Project, from all over. It was really amazing. And that just, I mean, yeah, we're still dealing with the fact that our son is gone, but to have that much support is just incredible. It buoys the spirit. Is that
Hmm.
how I
Yeah.
pronounce it? And yeah, so the feelings. So getting that support is amazing. But again, that speaks to the human spirit, the wanting, the care that people have, and the love that's shown. It's just, people, a lot of people came from hundreds of miles away. I have friends in Rochester, New York, who got up frickin' dawn, to drive the 4 hours or whatever it is to be, at the mass at 10:30, and then as soon as it was over, they drove home. All kinds of people did that on a Friday night
Hmm.
to drive all that way. So, it's just incredible.
I think it says a lot, not just about Corey and what a good kid he was, but I think it says a lot about you and the kind of spirit that you have and
And
the kind of
Sandy and
and Sandy
Sean.
and the kind of people you are, the family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, thank you.
and I wanted to say, and over the 10 plus years you've known me, and the listeners of the Humble and Fred show certainly know this for sure. I probably hinted at it a little bit less on this show than I do on the other podcast about my stance on religion. And I'm not a huge fan, but I will say that I've had several conversations since this happened that have really not changed my mind, but I've had conversations where I've been able to see the best side of religion. And what it showed me is that when it really comes down to it, any religion is really a community of people. It's a support system for when times are tough. It's a place for people to connect and for people to reach out to one another. And, all the other nonsense about religion aside, I thought, at its very core, when this happens, this is why it's such a great source of not happiness, but a great source of inner peace, I guess, because there's a mechanism in place. And I could see it through you and hear your voice and talking to you and seeing the support that was shown. I thought, I've got to cut religion a bit of a break because, it's true. I thought, because I tend to think of it in such, hypocritical terms, but, this reminded me that the reason it began, aside from all the political parts of it, was to help one another, to be kind to one another.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And that's why I'm telling you today I'm going to become a Roman Catholic. it's like, can you imagine? I come back to Guelph. You're like, Father Boyd, there's a Jewish fellow here who would like to, what?
Oh, that's like, you know what? I forget what Woody Allen movie was it that he thought he got cancer, and he goes to the dog and says, "You're clear." And so he becomes Catholic, and you see him going home, and he's got the loaf of Wonder Bread and a crucifix. And then the other great piece was Larry David becomes a Gentile.
Oh, that's right.
You should see him fishing and helping someone with their car, and oh my God,
I could just see. I was going to say I could just see you saying, "Father Boyd, we've got this Jewish fellow that wants to join." He's like, "Another one."
Yeah, exactly.
So, but back to the sincere part. Just wanted to comment on that.
So yeah, that's really cool that you would have had some thoughts about that. So to me, I don't really like the word religion because it just has this connotation of it's all about institution, organization, rules, do you follow them, etc. And that's not to me what it is. To me, I think about it more about faith. And so faith is there's something there that's larger than me. I don't have any data to support it. There's nothing empirical that I can reach to. I just have faith. And so one of the things that, to me, the thing about being in a community of people with faith is that it is in fact a community. And that to me is one of the wonderful things. Yes, Sandy and I generally go to mass every Sunday morning. I read at our church, special occasions like Easter, Christmas, and just doing readings because I like doing it and I'm pretty good at it. But it's just going into the park. It's like going to the freaking golf club. You go into the parking lot. Hey, how you doing? What's up? Saying hi to the greeters who's there, and you get into the pews and, hey, how's it going? You always sit in the same spot, just like you did, when you went to university or college, even though you don't have to. And then there's the mass. There's the rituals of it. You kind of drop down below all the normal waking nonsense. And then afterwards, we have coffee, everyone, and it's beautiful. It's a community. And so I'll speak to the wider piece. It's faith in each other. And that to me is the core piece. And so the faith part's been huge for us. And I'll just say it straight out. What helps us now in our belief system is that Corey's free now. And his suffering is over. And so that helps. And that it's a reminder that if I'm in the present moment feeling that, okay, Corey's free now, it it uh it helps me having that awareness not to fall into the despair. So that's a recent sort of a piece, but it helps. And that's what's weird. I know I'm going on here, but this whole thing is just this grief journey. It's just a freaking mystery. And there's a long, long way to go. So, what keeps us going? It's just riding along
Hmm.
with
Yeah,
faith, with
I don't think
friends.
I love that. When I said religion, I should have said faith because I've used that word a lot. I've seen Tim's in conversation with my brother here, who's a psychologist, and we've been talking about and by the way, my brother and his girlfriend and partner, everyone that I know sort of sends their peace and love to you. But I've used the word faith. I said I've seen Tim's faith as a way of coping with this uncopable situation, and I
Mhm.
don't think anybody that's the other thing I wanted to ask. I don't think anyone. There's no timeline to this. I've
No.
never experienced what you've experienced, but I've experienced the loss of a parent to both parents. And I always would say to people who were going through it, I said, well, you have to go through it. You can't go around it. And I think you're an example of that. There's no going around it. And in your case, excuse me, a lot of parents listening can't imagine it. It's unimaginable. But as you said, every day you wake up, you have to eat breakfast. You've got to go exercise. You've got to continue a little bit in life. And then every so often, or I'm sure in your case, very often, it hits you and then you have to go through it again.
Yeah. Yeah, that what you hit on there a moment ago, um, we're going through every parent's nightmare. And it's like a friend of mine, he won't mind me saying his name, Dave Bellatrudy, who you probably know. He was the head professional at Blue Springs. He's now he's he's now out of the golf business. But anyways, he lost his son Joshua at the age of when Joshua was 2 to cancer. And so Dave reached out to me and he said something again, the humor piece, but it's true. He says, "Welcome to the shitty bereaved parents club."
Yeah, no
And
kidding.
and so what that speaks to is that what people say is I can't imagine it. Like I say, it's every parent's nightmare. But again, it's just this is our reality, and we're going through it. And as you just said, you wake up every day, and it's like, oh, okay. And you get on with your day, and then, as you say again, you remember, and it's like, oh, but just keep going.
I don't know that I've asked you, and maybe we can just touch on it a bit. What has it been like? I've talked to you a lot and getting to talk to you now. What's it been like for Sandy, your wife?
It's you know what? I'll just say this. Um, I am so blessed to have Sandy in my life, and um, she's been so solid, and it's I couldn't imagine going through this, alone or with just with my son Sean. It'd just be really harder. But yeah, it's been frankly, man, it's been about the same. It's just, we just get on. She's like me, everything on hold, gradually getting back into the world of, some work projects and things like that. Um, but Sandy, like me, has an amazing support system, an amazing friends, Patty, uh, the couple of Kathys in her life, um, all these just wonderful people who, stop in, ask her for tea, and what's the wisdom that a lot of these ladies have is amazing. It's just that they'll would you like a visitor? And they come in, it's like half hour, 45 minutes gone, and
Hmm.
that's it. So it's really nice.
What's going on?
I'm
Is
just
it-
speaking of Sandy, she just asked me for my phone.
Hi, Sandy. Well, I'm not sure if you have much more to say, and I mentioned before we started recording that this was going to be a different episode, and excuse me, and I just didn't think that after talking about this with you, I've been thinking about this episode for a few days now, and I had mentioned to Tim, I said, I don't know how we're going to go from this to, well, anyway, I'm sorry your son's passed away, but let's talk about some golf stuff. How about that Matt Fitzpatrick? And, I've got
Yeah.
I've
Look
got
how
a
we
couple
bore
of,
down on that final putt, eh?
that's right.
After all that went on at the Players. Ooh.
That's right. I just didn't know how, and I've been thinking about, like, how are we going to segue from that to some meaningless golf stuff? So,
You know what? Hey, you know what? I'm going to go here, if you don't mind. Okay.
not at all. Listen, man, I'm here for you.
Corey was a very good golfer. And what was interesting about Corey in everything he did, the things that he excelled in, particularly music. Music was his thing. And folks, one of the coolest things that Corey experienced was being invited on the Humble and Fred show
Aw.
to do his song. I think it was his song "Beach Nights Kiss," which is
It was
basically
it was an original song.
yeah, which you can if you go on YouTube, you'll find it there along with I think at least seven other songs that he did. So, um, goodness, we played it at the celebration, and boy, if people didn't have tears
Yeah, I can imagine.
already.
That's right.
Um, so, anyways, Corey, like as I said at the celebration, I'll say it now. Um, I feel like a braggy dad, but I think that's okay
Yeah, I think.
in this instance. But you invited, I think based mainly on my say so, or maybe you saw the YouTube clip. Like this is like freaking
No, I
2017.
remember you sent me the clip, and I
Oh,
said, look,
okay.
we because, and again, if I could just interject with some mild humor, because very often parents would say to me over the years at the Edge and different stations, hey, my kid's really talented. You want to hear a song? And I would just go, please don't suck. Please don't. Because, it's like, oh, you got to hear my kid's song. I'm like, no, I don't. But Corey
Uh-huh.
was talented. And so we had him on the show. Continue, please.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to get to with this is that um, Corey was the least inhibited person I ever met. I mean, he was just totally open. And so, in terms of like his golf, like you never heard Corey talking about he was a good player. Like when he was like 15, he could shoot, occasionally 79s or so, but low 80s. And as he got older, um, he would just play, and he just had this ability just to swing. But of course, that was from learning and playing a lot of golf as an adolescent and then as a teenager. But I think the core thing that I had from it was just like this free spiritedness he brought to everything. He just played the game. He never got bogged down in technique or any of that or that nonsense. He just was so in tune with his own body. I think that in many ways, he was kinesthetically gifted, but he just, and he just had this way of connecting with his body and loved being in motion. He loved to dance, the music. He just played with this total sense of lack of self-consciousness. And so, yeah, maybe that's swing thought tip number two today
Yeah.
is
Well, yeah.
if you can just bring that sense of just loving, moving, freedom, feeling your body, rejoicing in that. And Corey loved the outdoors and he loved being on a golf course. So, yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Well, thanks, my friend. Like I said, I'm happy that we did the episode. I didn't know where it was going to go, and I'm happy to be your friend. And you're You're a good man, Tim O'Connor, and you've helped a lot of people. And I'm glad that people have reached out to you and tried to help you in this most brutal time. And for you Swing Thought devotees, our new season is going to be launching in April. This will be season number 11. And we will have Carl Morris, Dr. Carl, who I reached out to on your behalf. And I think he got a hold of you as well.
Yeah, he did. Yep.
Dr. Carl has so much stuff. And I've been listening to a lot of Carl podcasts. And lots to catch up with, even though I said to Carl, I know you would think by now we've exhausted everything we could possibly talk to Carl Morris about, but there is more. And our new season of Swing Thoughts will be we're going to record April 8th. So the first episode of the 2026 Swing Thoughts season will be April 10th. And we'll get back to talking about some golf nonsense. I do have one little golfy thing I wanted to leave you with today. Golf does not want me to get a hole-in-one. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say is that golf has conspired and decided that Howard Glassman, as much as he has devoted himself to this is my game. Golf is not going to give me a hole-in-one. Yesterday, from 158 yards, I hit an 8-iron downwind, little baby cut, and it hit the flag. I could hear it. It literally,
my goodness.
I'll send you a picture because I thought it was too trivial to bother you with, but I'll send you a picture. You can see the ball mark it's actually taken out the edge of the cup and then bounced about a half a foot away. It's the closest I'll tell you, Tim, it's the closest I've ever come. And it was so close that it made me laugh. I'm like, okay, golf, I get it. I get it. Anyway, just something trivial to end this very special episode. Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Yeah. Thank you, man. Thanks for being such a great, loving friend. And thank you to so many of the Swing Thought devotees who reached out to me. Our family really appreciated it. And so thank you. And
as I like to say,
appreciate it a lot.
Peace and love to you and all the O'Connor family and anyone else that is suffering this unthinkable tragedy. Okay, so April 10th, a brand new episode of Swing Thoughts. This program is brought to you by TaylorMade and produced by our young apprentice, Nick Frias. And we'll see you in a few weeks.
Sound of the river, you stop and you hold everything. A band is blowing Dixie, double fall time.